So money is what we're going to talk about today. The evolution of money, specifically the psychological evolution of money. Money is one of those strange and mysterious topics. It elicits very powerful emotions in people. It's often been associated with greed, envy, hatred, happiness, and excess. So money is very palpable on the human mind. It invigorates us, but it also unleashes a smorgasbord of emotions deep inside of us. So the interesting thing about money is that there are these group of philosophers that we call, actually non-philosophers that we call communists. Specifically, Marx and Engels, they had this idea that money is a major contributor to oppression across the world, and that money causes constant class conflict between the bourgeoisie and between the proletariat, between the working class and between the entrepreneurs. And in my mind, these ideas that money is so devastating is absolute nonsense. Money is an extremely powerful tool for us to leverage to communicate value to one another. Now, my presentation today, we're going to talk about the psychological evolution of money in terms of how it makes us perceive the world, how it makes us perceive each other, and what changes it actually causes. Then we'll talk about, and this is the reason why we're all here, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and why cryptocurrency really alters the substrate of the way that we think and is really beginning to change the way we not only look at money and money dynamics, but the way that these dynamics interact with society at large and change our perspective of the power institutions like governments and central banks. So let's get into it. This presentation nor the conference would be complete unless I defined money, unless I set the stage for what money actually is. So what is money? Like I said, it's a tool, it's an invention, but it's not an invention like the internal combustion engine or anything of that nature. It's a mental invention. What money is a collective agreement on value. Money is a way that we communicate and represent value to each other in order to procure the purchase of goods and services. Now, there's an interesting thing about money, though. It's a slippery concept because money naturally has value, right? But the thing with value is that it's subjective. In order for money to have value, we assign value to money. There's some people who believe that money value is intrinsic, or there's some type of intrinsic property in money that makes it valuable. What they really mean is that some monies have a use case or a utility. For instance, gold and silver have been used in industry, jewelry, computer making for ages. But that's not value. Value is always subjective. Matters of fact, I believe a major pioneer in this cryptocurrency renaissance that we're experiencing, Andreas Antonopoulos, said it best when he said that money is a collective hallucination. Money is, the value that we imagine in money is purely that, the imaginings of a society. And some people may think, well, this seems kind of bad. Maybe the Marxists are right. We're hallucinating that this stuff has value and that it has meaning. But I think that there's an element of poetic beauty to money. The fact that we can come together and determine how value should work in society for the purposes of evolving our species, for the purpose of moving on to the next step. Because ultimately, money is a technology, and like all technologies, they grow and they evolve, and they go in a stepwise fashion, just like mathematics grows on itself as more people add to that particular area. So let's talk a bit about, now that we've defined money, let's talk a bit about its history and its origins. The evolution of money isn't complete without having some type of grasp or understanding about where it comes from. So before money was actually invented, what we had was a barter system. Ancient humans living in the high Paleolithic African savanna often used trade via the goods that they had with each other in order to secure some kind of value exchange. But the problem with this type of trade, the barter system, is that it's cumbersome, it's incomplete, and it's difficult for people to exchange value in a precise way when they trade. For instance, if you went out and you slayed your woolly mammoth and you needed a pickaxe, you're unlikely to trade that woolly mammoth for a pickaxe. So you're going to go about doing the dirty business of cutting said woolly mammoth up into pieces to trade for the pickaxe. Probably not the best way to go about transferring value. This is why early cultures oftentimes embraced a hunter-gatherer, shared community type of mentality, which is fine, but it did not allow humanity to grow to the next step. So with the invention of agriculture, with the invention of farming, of being able to plant and grow crops, with livestock keeping, we had to find a way to communicate value in a different way. Therefore, we invented some early forms of money, which just means we attached a value to things and decided that these objects have value for us to trade. So some of the earliest forms of money were cowrie shells. We used feathers, beads, spices like salt and pepper have been used as money over the years. And has anybody been to prison? Okay, so not a lot of hands raised in the crowd. So in a prison environment, all kinds of different things have been used as money, everything from cigarettes to stamps and anything else that a prisoner could get their hands on. But one of the important things about money, for money to be good, it always has a couple of properties that define it and provide it with integrity. And I'm just going to name a few. So one of the important properties is scarcity. If your money is scarce, it has natural scarcity to it, that's going to lend itself to being more valuable. So money also has to be transportable, has portability. We can easily trade it between one another. So get this, probably the woolly mammoth wasn't portable, is that right? Everybody would agree with that statement, correct? Okay. So all of these different types of monies that we had early on were useful, but maybe they didn't meet all of the criteria for what makes and constitutes sound money. Eventually, and we'll get into this more deeply, some individuals decided that maybe we should use coins, maybe money should be invented, and then we should have financial institutions that allow us to save money. These inventions really cropped up around the time that ancient Mesopotamia was flourishing. They practically invented banking for all intents and purposes. But then the kings, the queens, the political elite, etc., decided that having a gold coin or a silver coin with their face imprinted on it to delineate value was a good idea. So this heralded the age of the transferability of gold and silver as money. Go down the line just a little bit more time, and another invention in money cropped up, and that is the fiat dollar, or paper currency as money. Paper was really easy to use and to wield as money because it can be scarce, we'll talk about that. And it can also, paper money also is easy to transfer, it's lightweight, easy to carry, makes pretty good money if we assign value to it. And early on, money, this fiat paper money was backed by gold and silver because most people throughout time immemorial acknowledged that gold and silver have these immutable properties that make it more useful as money. It has these utilities and use cases, etc. But when economic crisis started to stir and embroil the nation states, these politicians and ruling elites realized that they can't have money, fiat currency, backed by gold if the economy collapses or in times of economic crisis because they can't easily just print out as much as they want in order to attempt to stabilize the economy. So the the invention of fiat currency via the governmental parasitical system of nastiness has caused a bunch of problems in society, and we've seen it with a myriad of financial collapses across the world because governments can print out as much money as they want. So human beings, we've had to leave our trust and our power in these individuals to care for our money, therefore and thereby sapping power from the individual, taking that ability away from us. So let's chat about that a little bit more and dive into the psychology behind fiat currency and really what it means to be embedded in a fiat currency society. So as I mentioned, this type of money is based on control. And I think I have some money in my pocket as an example. So check out the symbolism on the dollar. You have the face of some sociopath printed on the front of the dollar, some political ruling king. So here's the thing, this is very important. Here's the thing with this. These individuals, and also I think I have a Bulgarian, someone help me out. What's the name of the dollar here in Bulgaria? Okay, good. See, educating me already. So I'm not going to make a judgment call on who that is, but if I were to venture a guess, I would say it was some type of politician. Would I be correct? Oh, well, that's good. Is it a banker? Okay, so we're on a positive direction forward then in terms of Bulgarian money. So in the United States, it's almost always a politician on the front of a dollar bill. It does speak to the idea that the United States is probably one of the most tyrannical and violent governments on the face of the earth, and I'm sure most of us probably agree with that. So here's the thing, this money symbolism, regardless of where it comes from, has effects on our psyche, it has effects on our consciousness. It changes the way that we think about each other, the way that we relate to each other. Because if dollars are associated with power, and regardless, even if the printing isn't of a ruling elite, which is good news, what this is still done is printed out by a central bank or by a government and controlled by a government. And that has long-standing and long-reaching consequences. The knowledge that that's what's taking place is causing widespread turmoil in society, but luckily, we're beginning to correct these problems with cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and we'll get to that in a minute. The point is we have to work to abolish this master-slave dynamic that has overtaken society and caused so many problems. So this fear of money, I think, is really at the crux or the heart of the problem because it's associated with power dynamics. A lot of people haven't had a monetary education. It's probably a lot different in Europe, but as I was growing up and going to school in the United States, in Texas, I didn't receive any practical education about money. I wasn't taught about how to save, how to take care of myself, and even that money mattered. A lot of this also was a byproduct of the Marxist indoctrination and propaganda that I received as I was going through school. These people hated money, and that mentality naturally infiltrated every aspect of my being. And I'm curious, can anybody here empathize with me on that aspect? So I'm so happy that that's not the case. Wherever not a single person raised their hand, so where you guys went to school is definitely a lot better in the United States, but our whole public education system is the most broken thing that you could ever come across. It took me an experience with the drug MDMA in order to wake up to my reality. I took the drug, I came to terms with who I am and decided I wanted to go back to school, get a degree in psychology, and continue pushing forward with life because I was literally taught nothing as I was growing up. And imagine all the people who didn't have the same experiences that I had and came to terms with who they are to push forward. It's a real tragedy. But what this has caused is there's this idea, this term called cryptophobia. Cryptophobia just means the fear of money. And that's what I had growing up, a fear of money, an indoctrination that money was bad and that the wealthy people and the elite were enemies, that entrepreneurs were bad people. I bet I'll get some hands now. How many people in here are entrepreneurs? I know there's more than 5 in here. So that's a really bad thing to think that entrepreneurs and people building things are troublemakers or the ones who are causing harm to society. That's backwards. It's these people on the front of this $20 bill that have caused us some of the most problems in society. Now, one of the important things about having discussions in this realm is that you're probably thinking, wow, is this guy just pulling all of this information out of his ass? Did he not do any kind of research or have any kind of logical conclusions about why this is the case? So I did dive into the psychological research on how money affects our consciousness and the extent that it's causing problems in society. But I want everyone to remember that these studies are done in the context of a fiat currency system. So there's one study, and these are all in the United States, and that speaks to my experiences. This is a Parents, Children, and Money survey that T. Rowe Price conducted in 2015. It's the Parents, Kids, and Money survey. And according to this research, 3/4 of parents had no ability to educate their children on financial issues. They could not speak to their children about money and the practical use cases of money. They just either ignored the topic, danced around it, or didn't want to have any type of conversation regarding it. In this sense, one can think of money topics throughout the years, especially in the fiat currency system, as kind of taboo. It's considered taboo to have these discussions. So this, if you had similar experiences as me, it's validated by this kind of research. Let's get deeper. So I talked about these power elites oftentimes losing connection, losing their ability to empathize and relate to other people. There's this study that was conducted, and I'll give you a pre-warning. It was conducted in California, a hodgepodge of communist and Marxist ideas that have been dangerous. But this research is really interesting. It's called the money empathy gap. And during this particular research, the researcher, Paul Piff, used a little room and put a Monopoly board in the little room, and he pitted 2 opponents against each other at a game of Monopoly. However, there's a catch. In this Monopoly game, he provided one of the players with an advantageous situation in that they had double the money, double the dice rolls, and double. You guys have played Monopoly, right? Okay, good. So we're on target. And double the dice rolls. So, and the other person had to play the game normally. It was considered disadvantaged. So this is what happened. They started playing the game as normal, and both players seemed like they were really enjoying the matchup. They were laughing, bantering, everything was good. But several minutes into the Monopoly game, the advantaged player who started out advantaged began to mock the other person, began to grunt and gesticulate and be altogether ugly to the other person. The researchers also left a bowl of pretzels in the research room, and the person who was advantaged hogged the pretzels, took the pretzels and ate all the pretzels. And then as the person who was advantaged moved their piece around the board, he would slam his hands down every time he moved a piece to taunt the opponent. So the researchers, Paul Piff and team, concluded that what happens when someone is advantaged, not necessarily when they're rich, but when they are advantaged in some way, they lose their ability to connect with that other human being. They lose their ability to parse the nature of the other person. So empathy is disintegrated in that moment. I'll say it one more time because it bears repeating. This game, Monopoly, is played in the context of a fiat paper currency system. It's played under the auspices of this nasty totalitarian system of financial control. So in my mind, it's no wonder that people naturally lost the ability to connect with other people because of the underlying psychological power dynamics at play. There is good news, though, and this is why everybody came to this conference, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about. We are changing these dynamics on a fundamental and radical basis. We are spurring a paradigm shift of unparalleled beauty, and it's called the cryptocurrency revolution. Now we have a new kind of money, decentralized, peer-to-peer, borderless money that not only changes how we work with each other economically, but changes who we are as people on a fundamental level, allows us to relate to each other in more peaceful, coherent, dignified, and decent ways. And we should all be very proud to be part of what we're doing. Let's talk about these properties of this money and how it acts. Let's give some examples of how this works. So I'm not going to go into basics. I would imagine most people here have a decent grasp of how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency works on a fundamental level. If not, speak to me after this event, after this talk, or watch one of the presentations that give an introduction on this. So decentralization is one of the main properties of cryptocurrency, if it is a true cryptocurrency. And this just means that the playing ground is leveled and flat, and there is no single or central point of failure with these cryptocurrencies. This is diametrically opposed to the banking system, right? The banking system is totally centralized. It's controlled by a small group of individuals, and this is ubiquitous and global, that this is how the monetary system is generally controlled. I would say that the United States Federal Reserve System has the largest monopoly on currency in the world, bar none, hands down, disgusting. Cryptocurrency is changing that dynamic also because it's peer-to-peer. Cryptocurrency, in a cryptocurrency transaction, I can send money to you without any kind of intermediaries hovering over us, waiting to expropriate a piece of that transaction. Peer-to-peer means that Alice and Bob get to interact with each other directly. What does this do for relationships? If you're able to interact directly with people and communicate value with them directly, rather than have somebody siphon your communication between each other, it means that you're going to be able to relate to others a lot better. You're going to be happier, more excited, and money, like cryptocurrency, is going to make you more positive. It's going to push you forward into terms of how you relate to your community. Cryptocurrency is also borderless and permissionless, meaning we can send funds not to Alice and Bob in this room, but also from Alice to Bob, cross-culturally, cross borders. Doesn't matter if those borders are geographic or if those borders are national. Wherever you are in the world, we can send you cryptocurrency. And to me, this is one of the most beautiful use cases that gives cryptocurrency its value. So if I'm sending money from here to Japan, let's just say it's $1 million. If I send $1 million of fiat currency, how difficult would that be for me to send? Yeah, really, really difficult. So difficult, in fact, let's just use an example. If I was in the United States and tried to send $1 million, let's say I tried to send it to Afghanistan. What do you think would happen to me? Probably get locked up in a cage, drug off to a cage by some thug in a costume. Here's the thing, though. With cryptocurrency, we ignore that. We just send money to whoever we want to immediately with no problems, no concerns, no worries, and especially no middlemen making us write down all of our personal information and then charging a nasty fee. Cryptocurrency has solved this problem once and for all. And this use case is so massive that I'm surprised more people don't talk about it with as much jubilation and glee, because it should be discussed regularly. Lastly, and we won't talk about every single feature, and some of these features are tentative depending on the cryptocurrency that you talk about, but this piece is both good and bad depending on the context. But cryptocurrency, this includes Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, etc., are transparent. This is important for relationships because if we're a leader in society, say we want to donate to a charitable cause, in order to do this, generally we would want to be transparent and upfront and honest about our transactions on where that money is going. So with cryptocurrency, we do this without a problem because these blockchains, depending on which one you use, Bitcoin is in this case, is all transparent. All transactions can be viewed on the blockchain. So if you're trying to change society some way, try to create some initiative, have some kind of charitable work, wouldn't it be nice to just simply be able to show where all that money's going without having to worry about trusting someone to tell you? Who thinks a politician is honest about where they send the money? Not a lot of answers, and that's a good thing, because at least in the United States, most of their money goes to some nonsensical pork belly project, lining their own coffers, or to blow children up in the Middle East. That's where the money goes. But now you can be transparent with the blockchain and show exactly where your money wants to go if you want to be. And I think that's really important, especially for people who are trying to lead this new wave of society. Is it possible I could have some water? Thank you. So one thing, I didn't mention it on the last slide, I don't want to dive too much into the politics, but this presentation is about cryptocurrency. It's not about random experiments on the blockchain. Thank you. It's not about some other use case. It's about currency. In my vision, cryptocurrency is the killer application for blockchain technology. It is the technology that we should be radicalizing for mass adoption. Now, this has been a political issue and discussion, and we're going to really delve into this a minute in the cryptocurrency universe. There's been two differing camps on how to properly scale a blockchain, how to upgrade it, how to grow it for future use cases. And in my opinion, cryptocurrency has to stay cryptocurrency in order to spur this psychological paradigm shift. That's why I support the upgrade for Bitcoin Cash, because it matches the early vision of the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. And that's not to deify this individual, as some people have claimed. It's to deify the ideas. The idea that in order to change society, we have to have a rapidly adoptable, easily accessible cryptocurrency that everybody can use, even the most porous and destitute places in society. Without that ability, we're going to lose this revolution. We're going to be enmeshed in a circle jerk of competing nonsensical scams, frauds, and other bits of nonsense. So cryptocurrency is what we have to focus on. That's as deep as I'll go into the politics, but I do want to discuss another aspect of this. Some of you will think, well, how can cryptocurrency change our mind about society if there's all this hostility in this space, if we're arguing and bantering with each other about how to change and upgrade the protocol? And in my mindset, this is already a good thing. We are finally getting an opportunity to negotiate via our communication skills in a political context. Has anybody here tried to fork a government? Tell me, how easy is that to accomplish? Who can fork the central bank? Didn't think so. So what we can do in the cryptocurrency space is finally learn to compete with each other on even grounds and discuss these ideas with each other, so that we can come to terms. And if we can't come to terms, now we've got our own chain or our own technology, and it's a beautiful thing. So this is allowing for ventilation of pent-up frustrations and aggression. In the financial system as it currently stands, this pent-up aggression and rage is either pushed down into our body, into our being, and then released as anger in other places, perhaps in the household through the beating of a child, or perhaps in the battlefield of war and all the bloodletting that takes place. But in cryptocurrency, now we can ventilate all of those nasty ideas in a different form of politics, a politics of kindness, a politics of decency, and a politics of goodness. So this is going to create a new psychological trend in how we resolve disputes. It already is. You couldn't debate. Yeah, it's true. Politicians debate with each other, right? They grapple, but it's all charade. It's all illusion. It's all for the show. It's not because they're going to actually change anything on a fundamental level. And when they do change things, notice that it benefits them the most. In the cryptocurrency space, that could happen. That's true. It could benefit one camp the most. But what matters in the cryptocurrency space is the network effect. If we're able to develop our chain and our technology and more people come to it and it's innovative, well then let the market speak. Let the market tell us which chain is going to win. In politics, that doesn't happen. They argue between each other, but at the end of the day, somebody's still pointing a gun at somebody else. Not the case in cryptocurrency. So how is cryptocurrency different? Well, thank you. I'm glad you asked. Cryptocurrency clearly augments our relationships with each other. It allows us to empathize more easily and more readily. It allows us to change the dynamics of society through our work habits and our patterns of living. Now we get to enjoy this gamified lifestyle where we can get on an exchange, we can trade, we can be an entrepreneur, a developer, build new products. And to me, it kind of reminds me of when I was younger and I played video games all the time. I remember playing World of Warcraft a lot and Diablo and some of these other games. But one of the most exciting parts of those games was just building up my loot collection and getting digital money. So what's happening in the cryptocurrency space is we're creating these technologies that are heavily gamified where the game's not rigged, because we can choose what game that we play in and we get to develop our personas digitally and create and collect value in a decentralized digital fashion. So in a very positive way, this ecosystem is gamified in a way that benefits each and every one of us. You could say that the political system and the banking system is gamified, but if it is gamified, the game is so fucking rigged that there is no way out. There's no escape hatches, no forks, like I said. And it's about time to change that. And cryptocurrency is already in the process of doing that. We're in the process of doing that. So to kind of work toward a conclusion here, we are in the midst of a financial renaissance. Do not doubt that. Things are changing. The power struggle is changing. People are scared. People are happy, especially politicians. There's been a lot of politicians who have absolutely freaked out about cryptocurrency, and some have gone so far to ban different aspects of it. In China, they banned ICOs, they banned cryptocurrency mining. But what we'll see as we move into the future is this is not going to have a positive impact on those areas in terms of gross domestic product, in terms of happiness, because what that creates is a situation that we call brain drain, where all the most brilliant people escape those areas and they go to develop elsewhere. So, and you know, in a way, this is what's happening is kind of like a new drug war, where if they start banning cryptocurrency, what they do is they create a burgeoning black market for over-the-counter trades and black market back alley deals, which is fine in my book. But the thing here is, unlike the drug war, if you ban and harm cryptocurrencies, it's going to come back to haunt you, because some places in the world are going to blossom and they're going to thrive. And that is the nature of the evolution of money. That is the crux of what we're doing in society and all the forward momentum that we have. So I want to thank you all for being here today and having the courage and the gratitude to do what we have to do, to make the difficult decisions to push us forward. And now I believe I have, what's my time for questions? I'm not sure how long I went there. Maybe over. Ite. So the last time I played Monopoly, I was a kid, but I know if you don't pass go, you go directly to jail, which is true of the whole Monopoly fiat system that we live in. So, yeah, bad thing, right? Thank you, Ite. Questions?
Yes, how soon do you believe crypto will become mainstream, and do you believe cryptocurrency will, when it does become mainstream, will it substitute fiat or will it coexist with fiat?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So let me pull out my crystal ball here and take a few whacks at it. The thing about this space that we're in is things are moving at such a rapid pace and new things are cropping up so frequently that it's really hard to take a guess at when that's going to happen. But I would say at least within the next 5 to 10 years, and that might be long for some people, but there's a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome in terms of governments, regulations, different ideas of how to control the cryptocurrency, plus our own internal disputes on what cryptocurrency chain is actually cryptocurrency, and should its use case be digital gold, should it be currency, how should we go about this? So as soon as all those problems get resolved, and no doubt they will get resolved, we will start seeing more user adoption on the retail end. And I think that's most important. We have to have more businesses, basic businesses, brick and mortar places like retail companies, grocery stores, accept cryptocurrency at the point of sale. None of this nonsense where you have to load up your credit card with cryptocurrency in order to use it. We just need to get out of this system, this Visa and MasterCard network system, and get away from that, because the tools are here. Cryptocurrency exists. The cat is out of the bag. Pandora's box has been unleashed, and that's how we should move into the future. So I would say 5 to 10 years. My hope is that it happens quicker than that, but at the way things are going, it definitely will be pretty soon, I would say. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. So this is between what is and what will be and what I want. Fiat currency just needs to be placed in the trash can and entered into the dustbin of history. My hope is that it doesn't need to work hand in hand with fiat currency. I could see something like precious metals and cryptocurrency going hand in hand to some degree, but fiat currency is absolutely useless. The only reason it has value, of course, there's the collective hallucination part of value and the fact that we agree, but a big contributing factor to why people mostly use fiat currencies is because governments enforce the use of fiat currency. Just going to give an example of that. In the United States, an individual by the name of Bernard von Nothaus created a company called the Liberty Dollar, and he started printing his own money and minting his own coins that were actually backed by gold. And he started passing this money around, and people started using it, trading it. It didn't take long before his company was raided by the feds, and he was charged with counterfeiting, wire fraud, a whole gamut of charges just for competing with the government and issuing his own money. So that'll continue to be an issue too as more cryptocurrency crops up and people use it. Governments are likely to get rather violent rather quickly, and that's why we really have to stay adroit in our space and stay deft of hand. They can't just shut off the protocol, but they can ban it. They can threaten you and I for using it, and we should do everything in our power to prevent that. And I think the main way is to continue having ambassador-like relationships with people, with governments, and let them know the world is changing and they're either going to get left behind or they're going to come with us. My hope is that they come with us.
Hello. Hi, this is Lilia. I want to ask one question regarding to Bcash, and I was wondering, will Bcash ever stop using the brand of Bitcoin, or?
Yeah, so Bitcoin Cash is a branch of Bitcoin, and it has the properties that Bitcoin was intended to have. So I don't think it's an issue of branding. It is also Bitcoin. And I won't sit here and argue the merits of which is better right now, but I personally think that Bitcoin Cash has more properties of Bitcoin that Bitcoin originally had. So I don't see that as an issue. Yeah. Can we get, yeah.
So since we're on the topic, and you're saying that cryptocurrencies are decentralized, how would you explain the fact that 60% of Bitcoin Cash is controlled by 6 people?
Good question. Bitcoin's not much better off, by the way, in that regard. Just going to say that. But I get this question a lot. I go to a lot of conferences, I travel to a lot of venues, and I do a lot of public speaking. And this question is asked every time, probably 3 or 4 times. So my first response is the problem of mining centralization is overstated. In my opinion, we need to get to as much decentralization as possible with these networks, and I think as we gain more mass adoption, we will. But it's overstated because the incentives for miners to harm the network is very, very astronomically low. So the larger the network, the more incentive miners have not to conduct some type of 51% attack or some kind of double spend attack. It would be like shooting yourself in the foot. No, shooting yourself in the head. Sure, you earn a few million maybe in the process of conducting attack, but you shit on the value of that cryptocurrency the moment you attack it. And even in the off chance that an attack did take place, which happened on the Zencash network, it didn't destroy the cryptocurrency. They simply realized they had a problem. They pivoted and started working to resolve those problems on their network. So the problem of mining centralization is way overstated and way too inflated in the space that we're in. I want to make another point. Even if we do agree that centralization is a problem, it's only a problem because we lack mass adoption. So the more people that we can get cryptocurrency in the hands of, the more mining operations that are going to crop up, the better technology that we're going to have, and it's going to be global. So yeah, in the early days, there's going to be some centralization in the mining companies and networks. Some people are too scared to mine, too scared to innovate. Governments are out there, like in China, issuing regulations and just being outright nasty. So this is a problem that's, 1, overstated, and 2, is going to be resolved in the future anyway. What's important and what we have to maintain on these networks is the property of censorship resistance. This is something Roger mentions quite often, and I agree wholeheartedly. It doesn't matter if it's more centralized so long as Alice and Bob can transact with each other and not worry about having that transaction seized or interrupted. And to my knowledge, not on Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, neither one of those platforms have had a censored transaction. Now, one could make the case that Bitcoin has had a censored transaction in the sense that a fee market cropped up last December and people's coins were stuck in the mempool limbo for eternity. But anyway, we get technical a little bit with that. But the point is, neither has had true, let's seize your funds type of censorship that's occurred. So decentralization, sure, we want as much of it as possible. It's an important property, as I discussed. But early on, it's not going to kill us. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I've got the mic, so I'm next. Aside from proof of work, do you see any interesting consensus mechanisms out there?
Absolutely, I do. That's a great question. So the main talk here was on cryptocurrency, which for the most part, the most popular ones use proof of work. But I've become a pretty big fan of delegated proof of stake. So delegated proof of stake, for anybody who doesn't know, is a consensus mechanism that the Steemit platform uses. And there are some criticisms of Steemit that are out there, but I used the platform very early on. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a blogging platform where you can actually get cryptocurrency rewards for writing articles. I was an early adopter on that platform, and I did very well on it. And basically how it works, it's kind of like Reddit. People upvote your content. But what's cool is through this delegated proof of work protocol, when somebody upvotes your work, it delegates blockchain rewards to those people based on stake others have in the platform. And this also works as a way to verify and timestamp transactions and secure the blockchain. So I really like delegated proof of stake. I think there's even a place for proof of stake, maybe a proof of stake, proof of work hybrid models as a way to sort of reduce the energy costs with cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash. And I think that those will continue to have a place in cryptocurrency as we move into the future. And I really do believe that people will continue, entrepreneurs, developers will continue to create new ways for us to arrive at consensus on these blockchain networks. So the future is really bright in terms of this. And I'm not a consensus mechanism maximalist by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I have one question. I really hope that the cryptocurrencies will become the mainstream, that the people will use it for everyday cases. But do you think that people are ready for this? And do you think that they really want it? Or maybe they want some kind of centralization because they feel more secure because using banking now is easier? I said I don't like this, but maybe most of the people still believe in the centralized systems and they prefer the cryptocurrencies. I mean, they prefer the fiat currencies, not the crypto ones.
Right, yeah, that's a good question and comment. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's kind of like the Matrix, right? Not everybody is ready to be woken up. And that's the case with this cryptocurrency revolution. Some people are really happy using government money and they feel secure and safe in government currency because it's what they've known, it's what they've had, it's what they've been indoctrinated with since childhood. But that's why I think that education and philosophy is extremely important. For anybody who's unfamiliar with it, we do a conference in Acapulco, Mexico called Anarchapulco that's growing tremendously. Jeff Berwick originally started it. There's a bunch of really good organizers. And we have a cryptocurrency day, but we also have a day where we just talk about ideas, where we talk about philosophy, where we talk about educating people in the voluntarist and anarchist communities so that we can get them on board with what we're trying to do on a philosophical level. But I think also important is that we just have to make this technology as usable as possible so that it doesn't matter if they agree with the philosophy or not. If the technology is usable, it's pragmatic, and they find that it's useful, they're going to get on board by virtue of that. But the education component of it is vitally important. Yes.
Hello? Yeah. You talk about the fiat currencies going to the trash bin of history, you said. Do you think the fact that cryptocurrencies value is overwhelmingly measured in fiat currencies currently, do you see it as a hurdle or an issue?
Yeah, the issue that you're pointing out is that in economics is the unit of account issue as a property of money. So cryptocurrency, and this is a problem, does not yet have its own unit of account per se. You don't go to the store yet and pick out your item in cryptocurrency. This is one of the reasons why there's been like a stable coin sort of revolution cropping up where people are trying to create stable coins so it doesn't appear so volatile. So yeah, I don't think that it's good that we have exchange ratios based on the fiat dollar, but just because we're enmeshed in that value system, that is currently how we're understanding the valuation of cryptocurrency. So it makes sense from a historical perspective and from a paradigmatic perspective. But these cryptocurrencies, there's no reason they can't be used as a standalone unit of account as we move into the future. When will that happen? Again, I don't know. Crystal ball, let's think about it. But that property can be replicated in real time and in real places with cryptocurrency. How am I on time? Good? Okay. So more questions.
Hi. What do you think about KYC and AML?
Burn it. Burn it.
Totally.
So, okay, I'll clarify my burn it comment with something. So I realize that there is a practical reality that we all still live in this system, and in order to use a lot of the services in the system, we definitely have to use KYC, AML, etc. If not, they won't let us transact or they'll come arrest us. So understandably, if we use those services, quote unquote, then we just use them. But I think we should take a step back philosophically and think, is it acceptable that all of our transactions are constantly traced and people have to know every bit of our background and who we are? I think that is an egregious invasion of privacy, because when we're transmitting and communicating value, we're essentially transmitting a part of who we are, a part of our labor, a part of our industry, a part of our humanity. And so we definitely should not have to provide all that excess information. I think there may be some private ways, some market solutions we can discover for that using blockchain technologies that are on an opt-in and voluntary basis. And I think that would probably be fine so long as we're not forced to engage sort of in this coercive system of control where, sort of like in George Orwell's 1984, we're always being watched and monitored and all of our identification is always everywhere. Some of that can't be, I guess you have to deal with some of that in the current system we live in and even in the digital universe. But there will continue to be more ways to sort of lock up that information on a blockchain and only give it to certain people who you want to give it to. So that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And I got another question here.
Sir.
Do you think that government-issued currencies will pave the way for adoption, or you absolutely kill crypto?
So can you repeat the question?
Do you believe that government-issued digital currencies, because you said like war to fiat, okay? But do you believe, because now there are projects trying to promote government-issued cryptocurrencies or currencies, do you think they will pave the way through adoption, or they will just kill the crypto?
Yeah,
like
that's a really good...
Like the free crypto that we know and we hope for.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I missed the digital currency that government's creating part. So we know that Russia has looked in creating the crypto ruble, et cetera, and some of these other governments have looked in creating their own cryptocurrency. So here's the thing. I don't think there's going to be a problem. It's definitely... I don't think it'll necessarily pave the way for cryptocurrencies. When governments get into the cryptocurrency space, they're not actually going to create a cryptocurrency, right? Everybody knows that. They're going to create some kind of network-based scam coin that is totally accounted for and that they can control on a fundamental level. A real cryptocurrency is going to be decentralized and have the properties that Bitcoin Cash, in the sense that it's open source, everybody can see the code, mess with it, tinker with it, and Alice to Bob, peer-to-peer transactions actually take place. So governments won't actually create a cryptocurrency. They'll try to scam people with some digital shitcoin, and what we're going to have to do is steer clear of that. But by the same token, when governments start talking about it more, it might pique people's interest. And in either case, their currency is still going to have to compete with actual cryptocurrencies. So now the market has been fully busted open for market competition, and in some cases, market cooperation. Yep. Thank you. So a follow-up question. And then this guy. Yeah, so the question is, for anybody who didn't hear him, he's wondering the adoption of cryptocurrency, will it help spread education? Is that right? Yeah. So absolutely, yes, when people start adopting cryptocurrency, they're going to learn more about it. They're also going to learn more about our shared philosophy of decentralization and freedom. But by the same token, cryptocurrency itself should not be a substitute for self-education. In my belief, I think people should aspire to be autodidacts. They should take the time to learn, to research, and to live in this world with as much gusto, enthusiasm, and energy as possible. And that's the way that I've gone about life. But that really takes a person to care about life and to care about living. And not everybody, some people will remain asleep. And that's why, to the other question I answered, we should just make cryptocurrencies as usable as possible so that culture naturally shifts. The paradigm naturally changes as we move into the future. So.
Hi. Is ETH's downward trend inextricably bound to the slowing down of the ICO market?
So can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
So is Ethereum's downward trend in terms of price at the moment inextricably bound to the slowing down of the ICO market?
Yeah, short answer is yes, I think so. I think we're in a real consolidation phase right now. Our space has been inundated with scams, questionable coins, I said shit coins, projects that are nothing more than vaporware with project leaders looking to make a buck, so they're not actually project leaders, they're just scam artists. And I think right now we're in this phase where a lot of that stuff is going to start getting pushed out of the market, and that's why there's this quote-unquote bearish sentiment that we're experiencing right now. But that's natural. Anytime a new technology, when the internet cropped up, there were scams galore. You had pets.com that infiltrated the internet. So the same thing is happening in the cryptocurrency space, and we're going to start seeing a lot of these scammy type of coins being removed. But here's the deal. We got to be very careful about government regulations and government agencies coming in to try to manage this stuff for us because, A, they always think they know better than the entrepreneurs and developers, which is just absolutely false. But the other thing is they just try to solve all the problems with violence. So what we really need is a lot of self-governance. We need people in our space developing platforms and innovative ideas that allow us to solve those problems of the scam artists and the bad coins, etc., ourselves. You know, and just a little afterthought, Ethereum is one of those really interesting projects in the sense that it allows for all these smart contracting functionalities, etc. But honestly, and one of my colleagues at Bitcoin.com, Gerald, said that the best use case, I believe it was Gerald, said that the best use case right now for Ethereum has been a scam token. That's probably not a good use case for a technology. So hopefully something is created on that project that actually represents a killer application. It just doesn't exist yet. I have hopes, but some people like Tone Vase just think that Ethereum is a scam. And right now it just looks like a platform that is allowing scams to proliferate, which is unfortunate. But I'm optimistic, ever optimistic, so I think in the future we'll resolve these problems one way or another, whether it's on Ethereum or somewhere else. Yep, you're welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
George Jesus here. Thank you very much for this talk today.
Welcome.
I have one question, and it is about the stable coins that are emerging more and more now, of course, due to the volatility on the market. But what I'm thinking is maybe until we have a complete ecosystem with independent exchange of value within it, and ecosystem in which all projects are thriving and are creating value, so they're creating the demand for their tokens, we will need something more stable to be able to make payments. Because in our project, we are developing a marketplace, and we need to hold some funds until they are exchanged, and there is a big volatility. It's a great issue for us. So what are your thoughts about the stable coins at this point? Because we really want to move forward. We don't want to hold back until everything is stable. You know, we need to progress further.
Right. Yeah, good commentary and good question. So I'll say first off, I'm not an expert in the stablecoin arena right now in the cryptocurrency space, but I do like the idea of having some coins that are stable so that we can actually use them and live off of them. And I know that it's very challenging for business operations to use cryptocurrency regularly because of the price swings. The up and down momentum is definitely a turnoff. So yeah, I think a stablecoin solution is one. But you know what I think the real solution to this problem is? Mass adoption. The more people who have cryptocurrencies, the more people that are using it, the more market penetration we have, the more stable these cryptocurrencies are going to become. Now there's a little bit of a caveat to this. Dollars, fiat currencies are stable because governments enforce stability via different kinds of price controls, etc. So really what that is the illusion of stability. In earnest, we live in a chaotic universe where you can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow, much less predict some kind of currency and what it's going to be tomorrow. You can only provide the illusion of stability using some type of bureaucratic enforcement. So I think using technology to create a bit of more stability mixed with mass adoption will eventually get us to the point that we want to be. And then the question from the gentleman over here, we can also start to use cryptocurrencies as a unit of account. On this particular subject matter, I recommend going to the Nakamoto Institute online and reading the articles that Daniel Krawitz wrote on the subject matter of volatility. They're really good. The guy's a bit zany. I like him, but check out his articles. So, yeah. Time. Am I good? Okay, cool.
Hello, my name is Anton and I'm part of a cryptocurrency marketing agency. And I would like to hear your opinion about what do you think of Bitcoin Cash platform, and is it possible to replace Ethereum for the ICO creation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Bitcoin Cash, for anybody who doesn't know, the developers enabled the opcodes, which basically allow for people to create all kinds of platforms and create all kinds of projects on top of Bitcoin Cash. This includes the ability for it to begin the process of tokenization, which, Jesus, we just talked about this issue a moment ago, and that could potentially be a bad thing if we haven't resolved the issue of scamminess. But over the long term, it's possible that that could happen. Bitcoin Cash could be a more usable environment for the creation of smart contracting platforms, etc. But it really depends on a bunch of variables. I think the fact that Bitcoin Cash has an expanded block size and is really easier to use and is ready for mass adoption might make it more interesting for developers, because, you know, Ethereum has had the same scalability problems, actually worse than Bitcoin Cash and the Bitcoin network have both had. So yeah, it's a possibility. I personally don't have a stake in it. I just like Bitcoin Cash as cryptocurrency. People want to build projects on it, that should definitely be allowed. Like, you know, I don't think anybody should try to police that. At least let people decide by minor vote, etc. So yeah, that could happen. That's fine. If not, that's fine too. I just know we need to use it as cash and get it to as many people as hands as possible. The important thing in our space right now should be mass adoption. Mass adoption should be the focus. None of our projects will matter as much. All these crowdfunding campaigns for whatever tech business are really trivial in compared to using cryptocurrency in a tangible way. Like working at Bitcoin.com, I get paid in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin Cash, so I live on it. I use it regularly on a daily basis. I pay my dog sitter, buy my groceries with it, live. That's just so important to me. Yeah.
Thank you. And another small question. What is your prediction of the Bitcoin price by the end of the year?
This is what always happens. So I'm going to say probably 5,000 or so. A lot of people have very positive predictions. So let me justify my low price point, and it could even be a little lower than that. These times are really rough right now because of all the scams that we've talked about, because of all government regulations, all the bureaucrats trying to get involved. So sentiment is really awful. So I'm not going to mirror all these guys who are like, by the end of the year, $20,000 or $30,000. If that happened, I would gladly come on stage and say that I was wrong and give a thumbs up. But I don't really see that happening, not this year. I do think long term, cryptocurrencies are all going to be very valuable. But to me, the value of the cryptocurrency isn't in the monetary value. It's in the use case for destroying centralized, nasty systems. That's where we should focus. I have the crypto-anarchist spirit writ large in my psyche, and that's where we should focus.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Hello? Right here.
Who said hello?
On the right?
On the right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, way on the right.
Hi. I would like to ask you for your opinion about the so-called centralized cryptocurrency that have one point of failure. Do we stay away from them?
So, this is like the discussion we had a minute ago, this is a tricky subject. Some cryptocurrencies, as virtue of where we are in the ecosystem, are a bit more centralized. And I don't think we should stay away from them, but I think we should work toward creating solutions for problems of centralization in order to maintain the censorship-resistant properties and the other properties that make cryptocurrency so useful and so good for all of us. Now, I would recommend staying away from anything that's a scam or anything that uses a ton of buzzwords in their white paper to elucidate their alleged product 30 pages later or 100 pages later. So we should stay away from those for sure, I think.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, just ask them to do a prediction of Bitcoin Cash as well as he did for Bitcoin.
Yeah, sentiment in the whole ecosystem is bad, so it'll probably be, what is it right now? I haven't looked at the market today, in the 500 range somewhere. Yeah, so probably around that same range, 500, 550, somewhere in that range. I don't see any cryptocurrency really taking off this year. The good thing about Bitcoin Cash is there's been a lot of development, and when I talk about the price value, I'm not saying that there's nothing going on in the space. There's a lot of development happening in the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem that I can definitely speak to. A lot of projects are being built. You know, Bitmain just came out with the wormhole thing that's going to allow for ICOs and tokens to be created. More companies, this is where it's going to be key. And I do think Bitcoin Cash will rise in value faster if more people start to develop products on top of it, which is starting to happen. Now, people are going to be using Bitcoin Cash, though, so its store of value use case could be pretty variable depending on the markets. People are going to want to hold it because it's useful as a use case, but they're going to be spending it as well. So it's not meant to be a speculative asset like Bitcoin's been relegated to, in my opinion. Yeah. All right, I think that my mouth and throat are totally dried out now, so I think I'm going to call it some, what time, I'm sure? Good? Okay. Thank you all very much for the questions. And